Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the NRG Series trial here in Ohio. My name is Rakdos. Today, we have an incredible show prepared for you, and I hope you're excited to watch the conclusion of our team's event here. We're going into the top four, and I'm going to be joined here first by Julian Knab, and then later on, we'll have Joe Lissette with Becky Bell and Drake Sasser. So without further ado, Julian, welcome to the broadcast. Are you ready?
I'm ready, Anorak. I've been ready all day. I hear you had to get up at 5 in the morning, but I've already been up for many hours, and I'm looking forward to this, man.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the full timeline here. I went to bed at 2 a.m. trying to fix my computer. Woke up at 5 a.m. and now I'm here and I'm just so full of energy. And my secret was I took caffeine before I went to bed and I'm just like wired now and I'm so ready.
You learn from the best. Before you go to bed, have like a bottle of caffeine and get up a couple hours later. Is that how you do it? Is that how you become a commentator?
Something like that. For the people that never sleep, you know. All right, so we've got the top four match. It looks like the players are ready, and we've actually got it's a pretty stacked table here that we're going to go and see for our feature match here. We've got Ivan Espinosa's team against Mack Enderss's team, and it's a little bit crazy. So the Espinosa team features Zach Allen in the Legacy seat, Raja Sulaiman in the Modern seat, and then also Ivan in Pioneer. And then Mack Enderss is playing alongside Harrison Fang in Modern, and then Tim Hatch in Pioneer. So we're going to start with Modern first. The matchup is going to be, I believe, Azorius Hammer against Blue-White Azorius Control. So we've seen Raja Sulaiman play Blue-White for years and years and years. I'm sure just the master of the craft here. Harrison Fang, also no one to be very shy about either. Very well-known name on the circuit. This is going to be a pretty incredible battle here. Julian, walk me through this matchup. What should we expect for fireworks in the first match of our top four series?
When you say fireworks, I mean, Hammer always gives you the opportunity that you can completely blow out the opponent, right? We've sometimes even seen super early kills if the blue-white control player isn't prepared for that and doesn't have the right cards. But the beautiful thing about Hammer is even though it's supposed to be an aggro deck, it can also like grind reasonably well, right? It can get to a point where it just like navigates the game to a point where you can get there with, let's say, I don't know, like even your man lands, Inkmoth Next is getting and eventually poisoning the opponent. So I'm curious for that, and yeah, it's gonna be super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Cards like Urza Saga just lets you play very, very slowly. You get to choose when. I mean, obviously against the control deck, you don't necessarily want to go all in every single turn 2 or 3 that you possibly can, because one of the new cards that has already made a very, very solid home here in the modern format is Leyline Binding, right? We've seen this card since it was printed in Dominaria United absolutely take over. We've seen it in 5-color or 4-color control, or what once was with Yorion. We've seen it in Indomitable Creativity, and now we're even seeing Blue-White literally splash 2 extra colors or a couple extra colors to get access to a 1-mana flash enchantment. So it's going to be pretty close here. Looking at some of the other matchups too, though. This is sweet, right? I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Mack Enderss against Zach Allen is going to be a matchup that is near and dear to my heart. It is a 4-color control mirror match in Legacy. And I have a feeling that will be the final match we'll be watching in this top 4 series, because that one is going to go very long.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing, right? And looking at the deck list, we see plenty of Minsc and Boo Timeless Heroes in those 2 deck lists, and that's going to be a slugfest. So I'm pretty excited to see how that's going to go down. I've watched you play decks like this on Magic Online for many years, and yeah, you seem to make it work very well. I'm curious to see how it's going to work out in the semifinals.
Yeah, I'm happy that 4 colors is going to one way or another make it to the finals. But the question is, which pilot is going to be able to showcase, that expertise? Because as far as I'm aware, it's a very, very, very close 95. That's right. Companions banned in Modern, but not in Legacy. So we'll see how that goes. And then the final matchup that we have is going to be Tim Hatch on Mono Green in Pioneer against Rakdos Sacrifice. And these are probably the 2 of the most tried and true decks in the format. Mono Green just being the powerhouse that it is, Rakdos being the sort of Jund deck of the format, if you will. That one's also going to be pretty exciting as well. We're going to start with Modern. I believe players are actually ready to go, so let's just dive into the feature match area, why don't we?
Okay, it seems to be deck lists are exchanged. No surprises to be had there.
Raja Sulaiman on the left here with Azorius Control against Harrison Fang with Azorius Hammer on the right.
Yeah, Zoro is pretty popular. But I guess I don't have to ask you which side of the board you'd love to be on.
I'm not biased, I promise.
Is there actually, are you actively playing Modern right now? Is there any tournaments that you're trying to play in?
I am in the process of learning another deck that you might expect me to play, the Breach deck that Corey Baumeister won yesterday's challenge with. It's just Breach. I mean, I I love that card to death and back. So learning
Yeah,
that one.
that seems pretty good. I actually have to learn Modern because we have a team tournament coming up in Europe in December, and I'm gonna play with Kaiser Vatari and Callum Smith, and we decided that I'm actually gonna be in Modern, which obviously is the most important slot, and I'm not yet decided what I'm gonna go for. So I'm gonna take some inspiration from this.
All right, looks like Harrison's on a mulligan here to 6, and honestly, I quite like that. I like to see Hammer players who know exactly what cards matter in the matchup because like you mentioned, Hammer has to have a very specific plan, knowing that you're playing against control. You mentioned it, right? Can you go a little bit more into detail on what the game plan will be for this game one?
I mean, when you play against control, there's always this tension between you want to present enough of a threat that your control opponent never really feels safe to say tap out for a chase or do anything with their mana on their main phase. They always want to be on the back foot and trying to get back into the game, but you also don't want to overcommit too much to get blown out by something like a Supreme Verdict, and that's usually like a pretty big tension. A really convenient way to play around that is to use manlands, right? As we mentioned, that allow you to present a threat that can't really be blown out by any kind of mass removal, and that's also like pretty good at attacking something like a Chase or a Teferi, because most of the time those lands probably won't be bounced. And yeah, that's what we're looking for with Hammer here, right? We'd have a pretty threatening opening, forcing the control player to have answers that they might not have. But yeah, for control, it's all like react, find the sweet spot. I mean, I don't think we're gonna tap out for a Chalice of the Void here on something like the second turn. Even though now that we have Solitude and Subtlety in the format, I mean, that gives control a lot more leeway, right, with their early turns.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other side, control, I see at least one copy of Chalice of the Void here in Raja's hand here. So we're going to get started with the turn 1 Colossus Hammer. Any key cards from the control side that you're interested to see in the early game?
In the early game, not so much really. Like in the early game, there's really only like lands and maybe. I'm not even sure if we're running any one drops. I'm looking at the deck list right now. There's no. I guess Prismatic Ending. Yeah. I guess that would be an okay play if you
Yeah,
want to get
one
rid of the
drops.
hammer.
Chalice of the Void, generally not a good plan. So I like this. I like that I'm seeing that this. It's kind of weird because I'm so used to like I mean, look, I'll spoil this completely for the audience that are watching. Julian and I have an extensive history and Legacy, so you're gonna get lots and lots of just like analogies back to like Legacy from like 10 years ago. Maybe Julian actually he dates me. He's a little bit older. That kind of, not as old as Joe. Nobody here is as old as Joe. All right, but Julian's been playing Legacy for much longer, and so like when I see this matchup, I like when you made that analogy about how like Hammer has to like develop slowly. I think back to literally our matches where you're like, all right, here's an elf and here's a Wirewood symbiote and an Elvish Visionary, nice Terminus on top of your deck,
Yeah, it reminds me. We sometimes have matches, right, where you had to surgically extract the Wirewood symbiote because you were so annoyed by that card. But yeah, this is a pretty slow start from Harrison's side of the board. We're just gonna add an Inkmoth Nexus to the board, Springleaf Drum, and I guess Roger's maybe gonna get one of those Trihomes now. Make it easier to get one of your Leyline Bindings down later on, as you mentioned. I guess there's not really a way that Hammer actually punishes those lands. Like, well, when I played Modern, I actually played Modern quite a bit lately. I got blown out left and right by Blood Moon because I just like, unlike in Legacy, I play the greediest decks that I can find in Modern, and yeah, Blood Moon, pretty good matchup against me there.
Yeah, so in this deck, I think the Triumphs are really only here to facilitate Prismatic Ending and Leyline Binding, which is, again, it's funny calling this a 2-color deck when it really does leverage the power of 4 colors to a degree. But like you mentioned, Inkmoth Nexus on the other side of the table here, potentially setting up a turn 3 kill.
Yeah, it's going to depend, right? One of the ways we can make it work is something like PSD Paladin. But
Yep.
I think we might... Actually, if we have a land drop next turn, right, we can get the Paladin down, but then we might still... Oh, this is cute, right? Can we get the Paladin down next turn and then use it to generate mana to activate Inkmoth Nexus, which is going to give us our 3rd artifact, and then we can equip the Inkmoth Nexus? I mean, that's pretty all in, of course. On the other hand... your hand might just like dictate that pattern of play. But we will see. We need to see what Harrison has. Now, can you make out any of the cards you see at Aaron Mesa? I was going to say there's a Twin Cast in hand, but that's certainly not the case.
Yeah, just turn 3 Toadcast? Yeah, why not? Judge, hello?
As you do. Maybe we broke the form and we just didn't know it yet.
Yeah. All right. Looks like Arid Mesa is going to go to the graveyard here. We'll see what the follow-up play is. Now, what's really interesting is earlier I mentioned there was a Chalice of the Void in Raja's hand. Raja electing not to cast it on turn 2. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, right? Maybe you just like want your mana available. I believe if you fetch a Trihome and then the corresponding fetch land, dual land, you can actually cast Leyline Binding on turn 2, right? You get a discount for 5, and then you could just like get it in.
Yeah, like a Zagoth Triumph, correct? Yeah.
Let's see. Maybe it's gonna be like one piece of poison here.
The super slow battle.
Yeah, I kind of like poison as a mechanic in a way, right? It's like dealing 2 damage, so they have to balance everything around that. And of course, like the older the format gets, the more broken this interaction gets. But I've also had a soft spot for any kind of poison deck. I also really like Infect and Legacy, going back to Legacy. I wonder if they're gonna bring it back at some point, like in as a bigger mechanic again. It's really hard to balance
too, right?
Yeah, that's so flavorful. I mean, that's basically what they do. I mean, they would need to like rebrand it as Phyrexianize you. Once you get 10 Phyrexian tokens, you're complete or something.
Ooh, okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So Nexus comes in for 1 point, and we'll see what the follow-up play is here for Raja. I mean, if we're holding a Leyline Binding or something like that, this might be the window to actually play the Chalice, but looks like we're doing something else this turn.
Yeah, I guess we're just gonna take out the hammer here, right?
That would remove the threat of, dying potentially to the Pure Steel Paladin, like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I hear control decks are pretty interested in removing the threat of dying.
Yeah.
Please subscribe to our Patreon.
You can see it on the screen right now. Leyline Binding, the new, in air quotes, Dominaria United card, has kind of just like, taken the format by storm, but reasonably so. 1 mana for a Flash O-Ring, super, super powerful, and has found a home in even this 2-color deck, which has now, you might be looking at the board and be like, wait, what are these? These aren't, dual 2-color lands. Like they're tri-lands. Well, Rogran Triumph, Zagoth Triumph, they help reduce the casting cost for Leyline Binding. Very important in a format with some of the most powerful cards like Modern.
So what is Harrison thinking about here? There was a decision to be made, right? Are we sitting on something like a Spell Pierce? Let me look at the deck list right now. There's 2 Spell Pierces in the main deck, so maybe we at least are trying to represent a potential Spell Pierce, even if we didn't have it with that like slight pause in response. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe like set up like a tap you out, then untap and kill you kind of combination. Oh, and there's the Pure Steel Paladin.
Yeah, and now if we have another hammer, maybe we got there.
Yeah, very very heads up play here by Raja taking care of the Colossus Hammer.
This could be beautiful. Like seeing Raja fetch here makes me think, oh, this could be a counter spell, and then Harrison would have the Spell Pierce that we were thinking he might be holding.
Okay. Shields are down, and so this must be what Raja was holding up on turn 2 instead of playing the Chalice of the Void earlier.
Oh, and this is a Spell Pierce, right? There's so many different artworks these days, but when I look at just like the play pattern, this must be a Spell Pierce. Okay, we got the Paladin down, we got our Inkmoth Nexus down. The only thing we're missing is power. We need more power.
Yeah, that's actually kind of incredible. Like there was a turn 3 protected kill, maybe turn 4 protected kill here from the Hammer side, and Raja fortunate enough to have the removal, to have the counter magic to survive, and it looks like now we're going to take care of this Pure Steel Paladin with, oh, that is incredible. Is that Blacksmith skill?
It should be, right? That's going to give your creature indestructible. But is it? Oh, the Hexproof is going to do it. Yeah, I was going to say the indestructible is not going to cut it, but Hexproof is definitely going to do it. But that one didn't work out.
Yeah, a second counter spell here is going to cause a couple problems, as Esper Sentinel being the follow-up play, also punching in for 1 infect damage, now up to 2. Tick-tock goes the clock.
Esper Sentinel would have been amazing in the first turn here, right? It would have taxed Raja's mana a lot more, or in turn given Harrison a couple more cards to work with, because now we're really only playing from the top because nothing on the board is anywhere close to threatening. We probably want to draw something like an Urza Saga from Harrison's side of the board. That's maybe the only card that Raja really cares about all that much here. Is this safe to... Do we see any Planeswalkers in hand? I think I see a Teferi. Is that actually 5 mana Teferi? Is that deck.
I think so. Yeah, I think I see a Teferi here of Dominaria, and it's interesting here. It looks like Raj's fetching, maybe trying to cast that into the Sentinel.
Oh, and just giving the opponent, yeah, an extra card. I mean, it might be worth it, right? I like this is pretty safe-ish to deploy here.
I would say depends on the context of the hand here. Looking at the rest of the hand, I think I see a copy of Polluted Delta and a copy of Chalice of the Void. This Chalice of the Void, a card that we have not cast yet since the start of the game. It was in our opening hand. Raj just playing super patiently with this haymaker of a card in the matchup. And actually, let me double check that. Is it even, Julian, is it even that good in the matchup here? Because I would imagine so. Chalice on 1, Chalice on 0 doesn't actually do too much. Chalice on 1, maybe in a world, Chalice on 2. Is that, oh, that's what's
Yeah,
happening. Okay.
I guess Chalice of Two, the idea being that return of Stoneforge Mystic, return of PSD Paladin, those are the big ones. I think there's nothing else that really matters here unless I'm missing something big. But yeah, those are two of the cards, especially Stoneforge Mystic, right, that would allow Harrison to get back into the game, and we've completely shut that one off. And now we're really drawing to probably like Ursa Saga. And yeah, this 5-mana Teferi, we're going to give you the extra card. And when you look at it, yeah, we might be giving the opponent the extra card, but on the other hand, we also get to use Teferi a turn earlier to draw a card. So in the overall card economy, it's not that bad, really.
Yeah, for sure. I think here Raja's choosing battle. And we've seen Raja play very patiently this entire game, holding up the counterspell on turn 2 instead of playing Chalice on 1. So I could totally understand. This line is very consistent, playing the Chalice on 2 through the Esper Sentinel, denying the resources with the extra draw. Pretty solid, consistent game plan here, as Raja's trying to turn the corner, stabilize.
Yeah, and it's also pretty beautiful. We already used 2 of our counter spells, so we really only have like 2 or 3 2-drops left in the game, left in the deck, counting like 2 more counter spells and a dress down. So we already made good use of our 2-drops. So now we're blocking out all the other 2-drops for the rest of the game, most likely. And yeah, this is just like not the spot you want to be in. You don't want your control opponent to untap with a 5-mana Planeswalker while you're not presenting any kind of like real pressure. Oh, and there comes the super friend. Oh, you must be very happy when you're sitting on the left side of the board, like, oh, let me do this, let me do that. And yeah, from here on out, I mean, there have been comebacks, and we have seen some pretty incredible comebacks yesterday in the stream. I'm not sure if this is going to be one of those games.
Yeah, it looks like Roger's gonna pick up a copy of Archmage's Charm, or is it Archmage's Charm? Off this Jace the Mind Sculptor's activation, put 2 cards back, untap 2 lands in the end step, and then you're looking pretty good here. So let's see what happens here. And yeah, Archmage's Charm, you can see on the screen. Pretty staple card in Modern here. It's like the new Cryptic Command almost, which is kind of a sad thing to say, but also cool. Very, very cool.
Dude, I love the card. That card actually makes me want to play any kind of deck in Modern that has Archmage's Charm.
I know. Yesterday there was a Doomsday deck in the feature match, like the top 8 matchup or something like that, and Archmage's Charm does pretty well against Doomsday.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna and looks like the 2, 4, and 5-mana Planeswalkers also do pretty well against a rather empty board. We're gonna go to the second game, or maybe another table.
Yeah, let's check out the Pioneer matchup. So this is Rakdos Sacrifice at the hands of Ivan Espinosa against Mono Green, piloted by Tim Hatch. So, oh, this is a complicated board here. Looking at what Llanowar Elves, I think this is a Cavalier, Skyship. The boat is in play as well.
The boat. I actually played against this yesterday in Legacy quite a bit. I don't know. It's people seem to really like that one as a removal spell to collect a oof. And over here, it's ready to crash in, right? I mean, this is exactly the kind of board that I'm used to seeing in Pioneer. Pretty complicated from both sides. And it feels like when these 2 decks clash, sometimes it's about who can go over the top. And I mean, not gonna lie, having a 5-mana flying, well, not spaceship, but skyship, that seems to have done the trick here.
All right, I hear it for the producer. Pioneer game 1 going to go over to Tim Hatch, so we get to watch Legacy now. Yes, you can't keep it away from me. And oh my goodness, this is we're just in the dead of it, right? Still developing land drops here. Both players, Zach Allen on the left, Mack, Enderss on the right. 4-color control, the soupiest of soup battles.
This is exactly the kind of board you would have expected, right? When you tell me, oh, we're going to cut to Legacy 20 minutes in, yeah, I think we're going to have like a couple of lands on both sides, big graveyards, big hands, and that's pretty much it. So, Anorak, walk me through this. What is it about on a very level 1? What are these control mirrors, especially in the first game, about? What are you trying to do?
Design mistakes, draw the good cards, play the good cards, and win with the good cards. Yeah, you can see both players have Uros in exile. I think Mack is just fresh off of resolving an expressive iteration, and I think you just want to use those kind of cards to slowly pull ahead, and ultimately the payoff is going to be a 4 mana design mistake. No, I'm kidding. Minsc and Boo, Timeless Heroes. That's the card that we want to see in play, because once you untap with Minsc and Boo in this format, you cannot lose. It is just that good, at least in this matchup.
So how hard is it actually to untap with Minsc and Boo? Because especially in the first game, right, there's going to be Force of Worlds, there's going to be prismatic endings to try to get rid of it. Some decks might even have Caracas to basically disable the entire card. Is it has it happened to you that people actually decked each other in these first games where the mirror match basically worked out that everybody ended up just having their basic lands and trying to get an edge that just wasn't there?
It's funny you say that. I feel like with 60 cards, I've come very close to decking, if not actually having decked. I don't think I've ever come close with 80 cards. Mostly because I probably just like concede or am conceded to, just out of like pure delirium slash like, boredness. Because yeah, I mean, what's going to end up happening here is one player will eventually snowball. One player will find an expressive iteration off of an expressive iteration, and the extra cards do matter, right? That's what the companions for, and you can see that here, right? Like I really like this Force of Will on the expressive iteration by Mack, understanding that probably nothing in the hand right now that's super scary. So let's cut off the development here and try to pull ahead our own.
I guess it makes sense when the opponent doesn't really have a lot of cards, right? And you are ready to untap into like 2 or 3 bombs, ideally, or even just like your own expressive duration. So you can start the big snowball that we're trying to assemble here. Narset, pretty good, right? Looks like that one resolved. We're going to minus that to find a couple more cards. Also cutting off a ton of cards that the opponent could have. What are we seeing on Mack's side, or rather in hand? I see Swords to Plowshares. I see an Ice Fang Codal, probably some more Uro.
Yeah, that's what it looks like here. And Iceman Quaddle, fortunate enough to get around Narset's passive ability, but you have to play them pretty slowly. Uro, just kind of a brick here. But Force Will, very big pickup. Yeah. Like if you just imagine this as a control mirror match, then yeah, like this is exactly, sort of the position where you want to be with counters in hand. And we're going to see a lot more of this in post board games as well. But right now it's going to be getting through. Oh, wow. This is powerful.
Yeah, we're not drawing a card. We're not putting any lands into play because we don't have any in hand. We are just going for the 7 mana mode on Uro. Like we're straight up just like paying 7 mana to get our 6/6.
Hey, wait. Well, we do get to gain 6 life along the way.
Oh, that's a big thing. And it looks like Mack actually likes gaining life, right? We're already up to 30, while Zach is sitting on just 9. Like this could actually become one of those games where Mack just plays the tempo game almost, like sitting on the Force of Will. Maybe we're just going to Force of Will a removal spell. And then we try to ride Uro to victory, like many of us have done before, and many of us will do after.
I have bad news for Mac though, because it looks like Zach actually has a copy of Caracas in the hand. Can't force a will that one.
Yeah, but that's really only going to be like a road bump, right? We already have the Wasteland ready, and I don't know whether Zach has something like Life from the Loam available. I guess this actually becomes like really weird. Once both players have like Caracas and Wasteland available and trying to get their Urus to stick, you could like end up in a spot where you deadlock each other, where everybody just like tries to loam every single turn without drawing extra cards. And then you really have to use your Force of Will to like maybe even twice force their loam to get in there. That's like a really awkward spot that I don't think we'll end up here. But yeah, I just like, I like these game ones like with control decks where there's still like some dead cards, not so many really in this one, but where people have to work with what they have and they can't rely on the extra uber broken stuff that's going to come in from the sideboard.
Yeah. Interesting here. It looked like Zach was about to tap 3 lands for a prismatic ending, which honestly, if Mac is casting the front half of Uro and buying it back, Mac's probably trying to protect this Uro with the Force of Will that was freshly drawn for the turn. And that's not going to be good for Mac in any capacity, all because of the Caracas that we know about in Zach's hand.
Yeah. Did you see what Zach was able to pick up here of the Narset?
I did not. I know we put a prismatic ending back into the deck off of a brainstorm.
Okay.
I'm not answering your
So
question, but I'm hoping that I can like sidestep you with the irrelevant data. Maybe that'll get me somewhere.
give me all the irrelevant data that we can have. Maybe this is just going to be one of those spots where Zach uses the turn for a setup, and then next turn a big whatever Haymaker. Oh, this looks like to be Minsc and Boo, right? 4 mana. That can only be Timeless Heroes, and
Planeswalker.
that's certainly worth Force of Willing over.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And especially when it looks like you don't have an answer to the Planeswalker in your hand anyways. I would 100% right click, pay 1 life, exile a blue card, and
But
continue with the
interestingly
turn.
though,
Oh.
we see that Mack has a Caracas in the graveyard, and there might be a Life from the Dome in hand or second card down or something like that. We will
Okay.
see. That could
Yeah.
be the play.
If it's
By the way, which
contained.
Pokemon is that? Help me out. That we have a Pokemon on the table. Oh, no, it's
Oof.
gone. No, it's an actual. Okay. Mudkip, I hear from Produce. Thank you very much. I only know the German Pokemon names.
What's the German name for Mudkip?
Dude, I don't know. I know like 3 or 4. I know like Bisasam, Shiggy. Shiggy, by the way, is the best. Shiggy's amazing. Shiggy is not Blastoise. I don't even remember. Don't put me in the spot like that, man.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was like, I don't know what these cards are. Either Panic. No, but it looks like Mac also pulled out a Pikachu too, so that's kind of funny. That's interesting. Okay, cool. So Caracas gonna bounce the Uro down. Minsc and Boo gonna put some counters on the hamster, and we're going for the eyes.
Have you played Baldur's Gate?
I have not played Baldur's Gate, but the third one has come out, and my wife has played it a little bit, and she's been like, it's so full of bugs, and it makes the game even more enjoyable to play.
Yeah, to be fair, I think the open beta is out, right? I think the full game is still going to release next year, and I'm super excited for that. And yeah, it looks like what we predicted is going to happen. There's a Life from the Loam being dredged, and we're going to get back our Caracas to basically pretty much turn off Minsc and Boo, right? Still some minor stuff that we can do. Maybe we can just like fling an Uro later on if we really need to, but with Mack at 32, I don't know about that. Maybe we have any other hamsters in the deck that we can cast. I wonder how many. Chat, help us out. What is the biggest hamster in Magic other than the Boo token?
Oh, I know the answer to this question. I'll see if chat can figure it out.
By the way, changelings don't count.
Oh, I take it back. I don't know the answer to this question.
Me neither. I'm curious. Dude, we need Bill Murray in here, by the way. Look at this.
Oh. Yeah, I actually think Boo. There are no other hamsters in all of Magic besides changelings. When they printed the first Boo, they literally like upgraded changelings so, like so dramatically. I think there was a time where I was talking to Caliber. I was like, you know what? Let's just play Minsc and Boo in that Magna deck that had like Moth Dust changeling and all that stuff. Yeah,
the Grist Dwarven deck and something.
Yeah. The cannon.
Is that what's called? Amazing, dude. But this. I don't know, man. I was predicting maybe we're gonna see a deck out here at some point, and I'm still not convinced that it's actually gonna happen. Maybe. I mean, we have 2 planeswalkers on Zach's side of the board, but they don't do all that much right now. And Mack is sitting on a full grip, but not really sure what to do. Is that?
Yeah. I think the actual answer is going to be just like play very, very, very slowly, get draw steps in eventually, and you will find like a copy of Endurance. You will find, something to sort of break that loop, right? So like level 1 is like you put the Planeswalker in play. Level 2 is you answer it with something like a Caracas. Level 3 is you wasteland the Caracas, and then level 4 is you have Endurance for the Loam that buys back the. So it's like there are actually, yes, this is a very Onion-esque. There are layers to this puzzle, but the problem is like finding the cards and the sequencing and all that sort of stuff. So you can see like Zach is picking up, his graveyard. Oh, and there's a Loam in there as well. So, looks like we're already at level 4. Oh, someone's gonna have to find an Endurance or a Force of Negation or something.
Yeah, dude, the Endurance could actually make it so that games like this could go on forever if both players are like well equipped with the cards in their hands and nobody's actually really able to break through. I wonder if any of the other matches is going to conclude before we're going to finish the first game here.
I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't be surprised if both matches actually just finished.
I played quite a bit of Painter this year, and every once in a while, I would actually mill out these decks completely. I would just have like natural grindstones in play, And I would just like keep activating my grindstones to mill them for like 4, sometimes 6, sometimes 8, depending on how I hit. And I would eventually get there. And the second game, they literally went after my grindstones really hard because I felt like they couldn't beat that.
That's hilarious. I think now I've actually never seen this before, right? When we're talking about like control, like nuances of playing control, there's a lot of stuff that I've just like not seen before, including this, where like the stage of the game. Where the other thing that happened to me recently was I was playing the control mirror, and somebody played an expressive iteration against me and exiled a surgical extraction, then proceeded to wasteland my tundra and surgical extract my tundra, and I was like, "What is this timeline? What is going on?" You know, like.
I mean that's the old technique, right? What people used to do in the Canadian threshold mirror. You would go after the green, the tropical island, then you would surgically extract the tropical island. And back then, before the times of the Era of Secrets, they literally couldn't win anymore because they couldn't cast the Tarmogoyf, they couldn't cast Nimble Mongoose. I guess sometimes they are one of Vendilion Click and technically 20 points of burn in the deck with 4 Fire Eyes and 4 Lightning Bolt. But yeah, that also made for like a pretty cheesy tactic that actually was surprisingly good.
Yeah, that is. I've seen Pro Tour champions, pursue that line before, even as recent as like this year. But looking at the board now, looks like Uro is in play. Caracas is bouncing the Boo token on Zach's side of the battlefield. Ice Fang Quaddle coming into play at the end step, and I think Zach's strategy is just either A, to overwhelm Max Caracas, or B, to what is it? Just keep digging to find the copy of
Maybe
Endurance,
some
perhaps?
endurance would do it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, right? This play of putting 2 legends into play on the same turn, that's basically designed to overload the Caracas. One thing that Matt could do technically is to use the Caracas upon the Uro, then Wasteland, if you had Wasteland in play, I guess, your own Caracas, loam it back and replay it to have it available again. But in order for that to work, you would, of course, need the Wasteland in play already. Can't play 2 lands a turn. Except for, I guess with Uro, you can play 2 lands a turn. Oh, dude, there's so many layers. I love this.
Yeah. One I think one tool that these decks don't have access to that I find is absurd is Mystic Sanctuary. That card is so ridiculously good. But yeah, at some point you can even, like, if you're playing Mystic Sanctuary in these style of decks, you can start looping it back every turn with Loam and Uro and putting multiple lands into play in the same turn kind of deal. It can get very complicated. As complicated as, like those old like puzzles that people would post online that's like, here's 50 steps to win the game on turn 0 in EDH featuring like Chancellor of the Tangle. Yeah, you could do that with like this deck, that kind of thing,
Yeah, reminds me of chess, right? When people are like, "Oh, this is easy. This is made in like 68 moves. How could you miss it?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and looks like it's kind of funny, right? When Zach passed the board or during Zach's turn, he had basically everything you would want in that matchup. And now we go back to Mack, and it's all gone except for the best planeswalker in the format. And I feel like this keeps swinging back and forth for quite a while until, like you mentioned, the first endurances are going to be fine. I wonder how many of those have actually already been milled or exiled. There's going to be 4 in either deck, I would actually. Yeah, there's 3 in Max deck, I believe, and 4 in Sax deck. So both a reasonable amount, I guess.
Race to the finish. We'll see who can find it first. Yeah, you're right on the numbers there, 4 and 3. So that'll be the key here, getting rid of Loam. And I believe there's only 1 life from the Loam in both decks. So if you are able to snipe one of those with the Elemental Cow, then you will be fine.
The Elemental Cow. Oh, I also see Force of Negation, right, in Max deck, in the main deck. So we could technically Force of Negate one of the Loam that's here.
Yeah.
Both the players actually have access to Force of Negation, so that's another way to get the upper hand eventually.
Ooh, and I like this. Yes. All right. Boo going to be sacrificed to the Minskin Boo down tick here. Going to take care of the Icewind Quaddle. Just, cycling through our deck here, drawing 1 card, powerful, but also clearing the board here. And that's part of the reason why Minskin Boo is probably one of the best cards to be printed into Legacy for Control as of late, because it does it all. It puts a scary creature into play with haste and trample. It draws cards. It literally is like a 4-mana lightning bolt in certain situations. Or I guess technically not lightning bolt, but you get what I'm saying, right? It does so much for the deck. It does so much for the deck.
I mean, there's a reason this Planeswalker has inspired an entire deck around it. I've played against Minskin Boo Stompy plenty of times in Magic Online by now, and I think no other Planeswalkers, not even Chasers, like inspired a deck dedicated to casting this as soon as possible. It just does it all, and it also like conveniently buys steps by Pyroblast, right? That's just like usually the best card you could have against any kind of 3 or 4 main phase drops. But here we are like, you know what? You need Hydroblast, and I don't think Legacy is ready for main deck Hydroblast yet, is it?
I think Harlan, Fear, who's a very veteran Legacy player, all around player, actually in at the last event that he was in, was actually bragging to me. He's like, yeah, I'm playing 4-color control, 2 Pyroblasts in the main deck, 1 Hydroblast in the main deck as well. And I was like, what are you doing, Harlan? That's not
It's
allowed.
evolving. I mean, it kind of almost, or maybe it already makes sense. I'm not sure. With Dragon Stompy, right? All those Moon Stompy aggro decks that we have in the format, it's probably also one of the best cards you could have against those to just like buy the time that you need to not be overwhelmed by the early Goblin War Chiefs, and not War Chiefs. Yeah, though we see Goblin War Chiefs in other kinds of decks, but not today. And yeah, as I mentioned, it keeps swinging back, right? Now we have a reasonable board on Zach's side again, and now it's Mack's turn to deal with it and present something of his own. Sylvan Library there, it's probably going to make it a little bit easier to try and find the endurances we keep talking about, maybe also some Force of Negations. There's
Yeah.
also a world where at some point maybe all the Euros have been exiled to Swords to Plowshares, in which case Caracas becomes somewhat less relevant. It still deals with Minsc and Boo, I guess, but that's pretty much it.
I'm gonna ask production in question is so it looks like I'm looking at the info on the screen right now. It looks like Pioneer is going into game 3. Do we have an update on Modern in game 2? If not, because I feel like this match is gonna go on for a while. It may be even worth catching up on game 2 of Modern and then wrapping around. Okay, looks like Modern is actually gonna be going to game 3 soon, so we're gonna check that out in a little bit. As players continue digging deep into their decks here, Yorion in the Yorion Mirror to find a couple of the cards that we've talked about. We're gonna do a little bit of a tech here and try to fast forward and find out who's gonna pull out ahead here. But at this point, I think we've finally seen the interesting portions of this game specifically, like identifying what cards are important, what play patterns are important. Now it's up to the players to dexterously maneuver into those cards. And yeah, you can see Uro coming back into play right now. I'm pretty sure at this point the exile zone for both players is actually larger than their libraries, at least for Mack, because that is piling up aggressively.
They've basically exiled already like an entire 60-card regular deck, and they just keep going. Dude, also, like, this is a testament to how good basic lands are, right? Yeah, I mean, you've been a big fan of basic lands for a long time, but I think recently I've seen you play like almost all non-basic lands. Is that the new anorak that has been invented? Just like all
Yeah,
non-basic lands all the way?
it's the evil me now. Yeah, no more basics. Duels are my new best friend kind of deal. Well, I just like casting my spells. Okay. Actually, it looks like we're going to be defaulting to Pioneer game 3 to see who's going to be able to take the first game here, the first match of 3 in the team's event here, the team's top 4. All right, Fatal Push going to take care of a Llanowar Elves here for Ivan Espinosa, and Thoughtseize is going to reveal a Nykthos, a Kiora, and 2 other cards that I can't quite see.
Yeah, that's really hard to tell, but I guess we're gonna know in a minute. By the way, do you think those are Summer Llanowar? I don't know. I want to believe those are Summer Llanowar. Maybe chat can actually tell. It's a little bit too hard to see, but I think this is the sum. Yeah, but that would be quite something. I guess Summer Llanowar like probably like a 4-figure card. I want to believe. So yeah, here's Kiora. Gonna make it easier, dude. I usually have Joe here to explain to me how the combo works, and I think I reasonably well understand how the combo works, but I guess we'll walk through it once it actually becomes a thing.
I will try my best. As a Legacy player who has learned Modern and is inching into Pioneer, here's how I would say it. You have Karn, you have Kiora, you have Nykthos, and a lot of Devotion, and then you use, the back half of Pestilent Cauldron?
Yeah.
Restorative Burst, right? To keep buying back extra copies of Karn and Kiora, and then using Nykthos to cast your spells over and over again. And
yeah, and basically using the chain whale to use your planeswalkers like all over again.
that's another tool too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The joke here is
saying,
two Legacy players walk into a bar. There's a Pioneer match on coverage. Nice.
I keep saying I want Genesis Wave in this format. This is just like my all-time cube draft favorite. I want to go to like Nykthos for, I don't know, 17 mana, Genesis Wave my deck into play. I've sometimes accidentally killed myself in cube with like really big Genesis Waves because I decked out.
Oh, that's
gave me like
hilarious.
so many draws.
Speaking of, looks like a creature land layer of the Hydra coming into play here for a couple points of damage. Ivan slowly developing his board. I have to wonder what we're playing to here, or if Ivan's on a mulligan, because it doesn't look like his hand is very only 3 cards in hand after we play land for the turn here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And with no permanents in play, we're adding Giganta to our hand. Okay.
Yeah, and here comes the Familiar. The Familiar probably not like I've seen the Familiar do some pretty disgusting things yesterday with the Oven against the mono white deck, where it felt like the matchup was nearly inwinnable for mono white because the Familiar just kept sitting there generating value. Mono green very much able to go over the top, so I would think that. But yeah, we need to make use of our over the top ability, and I like tapping for 5 mana here. Oh, is it just gonna be a Lay of the Hydra? I thought there was something like some fireworks, dude. I was ready to cast like something, but we're just gonna kill the Familiar.
Yeah, it looks like actually Tim is empty-handed here after the go blank that was cast by Ivan. And that's kind of an interesting thing to think about, is that in a battle that is, in a matchup that is very about playing on the board, surprising to see that Ivan is boarded in go blank here, maybe just saying that, you have very few resources that actually matter. And so
Mhm.
once you deploy your mana dorks and your mana and all that sort of stuff, I'll just snipe the cards that are left in your hand here. Do you think how do you feel about that approach?
Well, it depends. Sometimes you might see some rather weakish cards post bot just because you have something even weaker in the main deck. So you have to exchange like a power 2 card for a power 3 card. I'm not sure if that's the case here, but this could be something like that. And also, there's sometimes game states where Tim puts a bunch of stuff, like a lot of mana to the table by turn 2, and then just sits there with something like 2 or 3 really big haymakers. And if you get to take care of those with just 3 mana, I don't hate that. Of course, pretty bad draw in the late game.
So I'm trying to figure out how we actually got rid of the Llanowar elves here. I did see the oh wow, Thoughtsei's taking care of the boat. Wow, so getting rid of the stealing the Llanowar elves this exact turn was kind of insane here as you see Giganta coming into play. Okay, Ivan, all right, maybe we are turning the table here in this game 3. Had nothing
Yeah.
for the first 4 turns, and now we have a moose in play, or an
Was it a
elemental
moose?
elk rat.
Elk? Deer? I don't know, man, how that works.
I
But
actually
yeah,
never saw this, but if you look at like the scale of the cards in the artwork, Giganta is huge. Oh my goodness.
or those are really, really tiny deer next to it. Could be
uh,
either of those. But then that's also like a really tiny, tiny tree next to it. So Tim is in the tank right now. Which card actually puts you in the tank in a situation like this? Is it gonna be like I'm trying to? But we also have our planeswalker still available, but I'm not sure that's gonna do too much. Okay,
okay.
is that Karn?
It is. It is a
Whoa.
very unique art of Karn here. And this is something that is interesting that you'd want to be in the tank for, right? Is it worth it here to play your most valuable planeswalker into, a board of creatures? If we're factoring in the Den of the Bugbear also hiding in Ivan's mana base. And Tim says, you know what? Holding it's not going to be any good here. But it's kind of weird. Ivan definitely in the driver's seat right now. What do you think you'd fetch up here if you're in Tim's side?
Yeah, it looks like Tim isn't sure either. Ideally, something you can cast for 2, right? You have 2 mana available using the Kiara, and I'm going through this. I mean, if you can't find anything for 2 that really does the trick, like what do you see here? Like Heart of Kiran, Ratchet Bomb, and stuff, like none of that really excites me. Then maybe you go for something really big, hope that the opponent doesn't have another discard spell, and then you land your hopefully Haymaker next turn. Like, what is there? Like,
I see a
Aztecas
copy of
Chariot?
Transmogrifying Wand. That's a card that I have never heard about before. And probably closer to stock, I guess. Mono green is almost exactly the same through and through, but that's one way to maybe get the Giganta off the board. Although it will take a while, a long, long while. So, or a lot of mana at least. So maybe that's not actually the move either. What are we getting here?
What's this? This is another. Phew. It looks like it's something that we can't cast at least, or we don't want to cast right now.
Doesn't matter what it is. I've been flipping the other last card in hand. It was a Thoughtseize.
Sweet. I don't have to deal with this anymore. Yeah, let me grab that, put it in the graveyard. Let's do that again. And now we're going to take out both of the planeswalkers pretty much, right?
Yeah, which is kind of absurd here because now thinking about this, I don't know what top decks Tim actually has. Nykthos has no devotion to no mana, devotion and play to generate mana with, and it has to be something crazy like I don't know, like something to stabilize the board first. Maybe like a what is it called, Cavalier
Cavalier of
potentially.
Thorns, yeah, that was the first
Yeah,
thing that
that's
I
the
thought about
first
as
card
well.
that I'm looking at, and then after that we have to just run heater into heater into heater.
Yeah, something like drawing an extra land, storm the festival or something. Maybe that's one way to get back. I mean, 16 life is still okay, even though we're taking. I think we're taking 10 damage right now. Yeah, this is gonna be over pretty quickly.
Mm. So 2 updates. First off, the card that we got off of Karn the Great Creator was Asika's Chariot. Thank you, Twitch Stats. Second update, Legacy. No updates really. One player's Minsc and Boo is now gone. The other one has a Minsc and Boo gone. We're still in game 1 there, but we will okay, it looks like, and also Modern Blue White takes the trophy in that match. So potentially, like you mentioned, Julian, both of these matches will finish before game 1 in Legacy is even over, which to me is quite hilarious.
And I think we're using untimed rounds, right, in the playoffs. I'm pretty
It
sure.
should be that way, yeah. So
that's gonna be. Oh yeah, I think if Tim doesn't draw anything here, then the game could actually be over before anything happens in Legacy, and that's quite hilarious to me. But it's gonna be really hard. We got 3 mana, probably not something. Yeah, it's gonna allow us to untap one of our lands, get to 3 mana again, but that doesn't do it. And Tim's still sitting. Yeah, I was gonna say it didn't seem right that Tim was sitting at 16. Now we're down to 8, and we pretty much have 8 damage here. That should do it.
yep. This is crossing the finish line.
That's probably going to be a handshake a couple seconds from now. No, we get 2 mana. Oh, we got, of course. I guess we get to, jump block here. Just take 6 damage down to 2, I believe. And now we better find something really good.
I don't think it exists. I think
you
this
know
is
what
a
we
wrap.
need here? We need something with lifelink here to stay alive in the first place. And I don't think that's what this deck is doing.
Yeah, exactly right. I think the board has already gone a bit too wide. There's Oath of Nissa.
I'm not even sure there's hope. Oh, there's another Nissa and Nykthos in the basic forest. I mean, I love those Urza Saga basic forests. Those were the first basic forests I ever played in my life. But that's it.
There it is.
Ivan,
There's
Roger,
the
and Zach move on to the finals.
Congratulations. Yeah, that is incredible. And yeah, I mean, seeing the team of Ivan Espinosa, Raja Sulaiman, Zach Allen all win here at the hands of the Pioneer and Modern matches. Who knows what would happen in Legacy, honestly? I mean, they were still in game 1, and we'd probably have to tune in next week's broadcast to figure out like what the conclusion of that match would even be, because it's very grindy and it takes a while. And so I'm glad that we got to check out some of the other matches in the meantime. Do we have any word from the other semifinal match as to who may have won? Because then we'll have. Okay, so I'm getting an update. It looks like the second semifinal match has just finished, and we are getting an update on who won there. But yeah, that was pretty exciting. I was really happy to see. I don't know, a couple things that at first didn't make sense to me, but then sort of did. So the go blank strategy that Ivan had in that game 3 was kind of interesting, sort of just depleting the mono green deck of its resources, and then saying, hey, look, I have some standalone threats here in the form of Den of the Bugbear. I've got a 5/5 elk that I can put into play here and just start swinging with. Like, you've got nothing, you won't be able to set up. Very akin to like those the old days where Hind the Torok would just like deplete you of resources and you'd have nothing left to do, right? Go blank. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it reminds me a lot of how it worked in Limited, when I learned Limited. Like these discard spells, the best spot to play them was when the opponent had 2 cards left in hand. Not only because he would get like 2 cards for 1 card, 2 for 1, I hear that's good, but you were almost guaranteed that after the setup of the initial turns, you're going to hit something good. Because in the long run, your opponent probably kept that hand for a reason. And the reason is going to be in their hand. And that's what you're trying to do. So I think that's a pretty smart approach. Yeah. Also, speaking about Legacy, I'm just getting an update, and Google is actually simulating the rest of the game on a supercomputer. So you might actually get the result next week. So they're feeding it into their deep AI, whatever they have.
Yeah, and then also for modern, just as a recap too, Raja Sulaiman winning that game 2-0 against the better blue-white player, I suppose. I was really pleasantly surprised to see how Raja was playing here. I'm kind of curious what the matchups will be in the finals. We'll probably get that in a little bit. And in fact, right now, what I am getting word from production is there are 350 players in the chat right now, and I believe we are about to get 350 new follows to the channel here. If you appreciate the content that's going on here at NRG, please consider hitting the follow button. It does help the metrics, and it does help just making the next show even bigger and better. You are the reason that we are here today to provide you with some sweet content. Let's take a look at some of the future NRG events coming up too, if you're interested in playing at one of these near you. Yep. So the first event we have coming up is a $15,000 weekend here, and I believe this is in Fort Wayne. Yep, November 5th and 6th, the first weekend of November, featuring another team $10,000 trial and a Pioneer $5,000 trial in on the next day. Other upcoming events include a $10,000 Pioneer trial in the Chicagoland area, followed by a Modern 5K. I believe we have one more event as well coming up to the December 10th Showdown. That is a $20,000 weekend event, and the format yet to be decided, but that's going to be in Louisville. So if you are nearby, consider showing up. Paper Magic is coming back, and it is hot. It is great. NRG is bringing you some of the best content. So also be sure to follow all the socials to find out, any updates and things like that. I think we also have a couple more graphics. I want to take a look at maybe the qualified players for, what are these players playing for? What's the importance of these events here? And you can see here, congratulations to all the people on the screen here who are queued for the 2022 championship. I think that's in January of next year. Putting a pin on the date here, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more slots to award here, 3 of which will come from playing in season 3. So look forward to that as we round out. This is a stacked list of players, by the way. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Excellent. So why don't we take a quick little break here? It should be about 5 minutes, maybe even less, before players are ready for the finals of this team's event here. I'm excited. You're excited. We're all excited. We'll see you in just a little bit. Welcome back, everybody, to the NRG Series trial here in Ohio. My name is Rakdos. I'm here with Julian Knab. Julian, we just watched a slog of a match, and I've got a spoiler alert for you regarding the finals. So we just finished the semifinals, and the finals actually have been drawn. Both teams have decided to go and play in the modern 5K that's happening today. So, they're going to figure out, prize splitting and with all the points and the invites for the championship series coming up next year or early next year. And so that is that.